Hello, marketers. My name is Christy Ashton, and today I'm talking with Scott Buelter, CEO at Ascent 360,
Good afternoon.
about how to achieve advanced personalization. Let's get started.
All right, sounds good.
Scott, what's the difference between personalization and advanced personalization?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they think about personalization, they think about maybe some of the ideas that were generated in the early 2000s in email marketing, when you'd add someone's first name into dear friend. Instead of dear friend, they put dear John, if you know their name, and people think about that as personalization. But the reality is, more advanced personalization and doing something that really speaks to who the person is, the way they think about things, their likes and dislikes, is an advancement that a lot of marketers haven't yet achieved. And I think that's how we think about advanced personalization. If you know the demographics, the psychographics, the way people think about things, then you can personalize to a degree that is very difficult within an email marketing platform or something like that. So it's probably worth doing a thought experiment. Have you ever received an email, let's say from your favorite sporting goods store, and imagine if that email does come across and it has a burly guy in the woods wearing all camouflage, holding a crossbow or a compound bow, and you look at that and say, wow, that's amazing. I don't fit in with that at all, right? I love the woods, but the way I love the woods, is picking blueberries or smelling the flowers or going on a hike, and it's fundamentally different. And so if you're the marketer, you've attempted to connect with some number of people, but perhaps 80% of the people who get that email will really not associate with it, and you'll probably actually turn them off to your brand. And I think that's how we think about advanced personalization. If you can know enough about your consumer, the way they think about things, right? So if you know their life stage, if you know their gender, if you know the things that they like, are they an advanced skier, are they a beginner skier? If you know their lifetime value, you can speak to them in a fundamentally different way. And so, on the screen here is an example of this, right? That shows an email that's sent differently to a family member, to someone who's mature, and someone who's a young millennial. Why? Because each of those people have a different vision of what they want to achieve when they ski, and that's the same for when they walk into a retailer. Some people may be into fashion, and some may be have a fundamentally different goal of what they're trying to achieve. Not only that, their behavior is different. So if you can kind of see the different cells on the right side there, it's not only family, mature, and millennial, but we start to say, well, let's break it up by whether they're a pass holder or not a pass holder, or are they someone who comes to the mountain just for the day. Are they a previous pass holder, that is, they've lapsed somehow, or just purely a prospect. A prospect may be interested in your product. They want to know more information, but they haven't committed by any stretch. And if you know enough about that, then you can start to personalize the message. And once you start to personalize the message, then the ROI goes up substantially, right? You do achieve the goal. You engage your consumers. And another good example is simply if you know who your best customers are. So in this graphic here, you can see that while 73% of revenue is generated by 20% of the customer base, and you have to ask yourself, am I treating that 20% who's driving 73% of my revenue the right way? Am I talking to them as though they're my best customers, right? And the idea is, some customers are more equal than other customers. Well, they're all equal, but some are more equal than others. And we would suggest that treating those folks in the red, that 20% differently, will not only make them more loyal to your business, they will end up continuing to buy from your business, and you can start to build a relationship with them through that process. So we have done this many times for many clients, and some interesting examples. We have had clients that have actually executed on that ski example that we showed above regarding family and mature and millennials. But in other examples, we've simply sent uh, female creative to females and male creative to males, and that is to say that the hero of the email or the ad, if it's on Facebook, will be a female that females are looking at, and a male that males are looking at. And we've built control groups in these cases to say that, well, we know what happens if we send male creative to females. And at the end of the day, what we found is about an 18% conversion increase for females who get female creative, and about a 12% conversion increase for males who get male creative. And so the results are actually quite substantial. I'd ask you, well, what other tactic might you take to increase conversion by 12%? And I don't mean that you're increasing the conversion to 12%. I mean that you're increasing it from whatever it is. Let's just call it, 2% by 12%. But it has a substantial impact on your bottom line revenue.
Yeah, well, that's fabulous. So how can marketers get the results that you just talked about?
I think the secret really is all around data. You need the data assets to be able to generate the insight to then personalize messages. Now, the reality is your business is probably already generating this type of data. So, if you can see that your consumers are buying, you know, beginner gear as an example, right? So let's just say it's a ski, and they've bought kind of the entry level package. Well, something, and if in fact they're doing that same thing, but you can see that they're buying it for the rest of their family, well, then you can act upon that as well. And the data that gets generated when you do know that they're buying certain product types, they're buying at certain times of the year, that you see that they're part of a family, or you can go get the data to know their gender and their income perhaps. All of a sudden you start having the sort of data that you can use that information to then go drive this sort of marketing activity. And I'd even say that some of the simplest ideas is only like, where do they want to be communicated to? So if someone's opening and clicking your emails, well, you know that they're engaged in email. But if in fact instead they're not, but you can see that they're clicking through a Facebook ad to then buy your product, well, that's a person you might actually want to talk to via Facebook, because you know that they're active there.
Wow. So how do I get this connected view?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple ways, and one is, you can engage in some kind of IT activity to start bringing the data together. There are, most Fortune 500 companies will endeavor in some event to build a custom marketing database that has a lot of this data. But my suggestion is there is a new class of software called customer data platforms that pull all of this data together, right? So in the graphic, this example is, well, let's grab the point of sale data, which is a different system than where the lodging data is kept, and is a different system than is ecom. And of course, you want to layer in all the email disposition data, the opens and the clicks and the bounces, and then you want to get, well, browse behavior from the website. And so you want to pull all this data together into one platform, and that platform should let you segment the data, should let you start building metrics around things like lifetime spend or prospect to customer conversion ratios, and begin the journey. And it very much is a journey. We do believe that it takes time to get from a place where you have connected data to really advanced strategies, and advanced strategies start looking like things like personas or scoring. But it's very simple to get to a place where well, is someone mature or millennial or family, and do they have past purchase behavior at our business.
So tell us how the Ascent 360 CDP works.
Yeah, so our CDP, you can kind of think of it in three buckets, and I think the first bucket is around just bringing all the data together. So first saying, well, let's go get data from the e-commerce system, and let's go get data from the point of sale system, and let's go get data from the email platform. But then you need to, what we call harmonize that data. And harmonize is, well, you need to clean the names, you need to clean the addresses. You want to fold all that data together in such a way that you're matching it, that you can see that it's the same person who bought through point of sale that bought through e-commerce, or maybe they bought 3 times through e-commerce with 3 different accounts. You want to be able to bring all that data together, and you want to create a bunch of metrics, right? Things like lifetime value or lifetime spend or customer retention rate or something like that. And that starts being the second bucket, about knowing your customer. You initially want to know some very, very simple things like, is this person a customer or are they a prospect? I think you'll find that within a lot of like email marketing platforms, you might have 600,000 people that you send an email to on a weekly basis, and what you might call a newsletter, but you don't know who you're sending it to. Are they even a prospect or are they a customer? So it starts with the basics of knowledge, which is, have they done business with you? And if they have, how much have they spent? And if they're a prospect, well, how long have they been a prospect? The typical idea is, once someone becomes a prospect, you've only got 18, 21 days to convert them in the current purchase cycle. And that is to say that they're probably becoming a prospect. They signed up for email program because they're interested. They're either going to buy from you or someone else. So if you've got a prospect that's 4 years old, it may not achieve the goals that you want to, even if you're still sending them the email on a weekly basis. And finally, so once you know your customers, then you want to start using that to drive campaigns, right? People are opening, clicking on emails, send them an email. People who aren't, push them up into Facebook and show them ads there, or push them into Google, or push them into your text messaging program. So you can talk to people where they are and start driving campaigns that use personalization, that avoids the example that we talked about at the beginning, which is showing a guy in camo holding a buck knife to people who love the outdoors for different reasons, and that will ultimately drive results. So ultimately, it's treating people like people. We know that if you've got 150,000 customers, it's very hard to know who they are if they walked in the door. It's hard to say, hey Frank, how's the home project going? But with a CDP, you can start to achieve that same goal because you have enough data. So if you will, it is personalization at scale, which I think is, Christy, the thing that you started at the very beginning of this conversation.
Well, that's great. I really like that combination, centralized data and the insights to know what to do with that information.
Yeah.
So are CDPs, or is the Ascent CDP affordable?
Yeah, CDPs have they are affordable, right? It's a different game than 10 or 15 years ago. 10 or 15 years ago, building a custom marketing database was probably $1 million proposition. As technology has advanced and as companies like Ascent 360 have started to provide this software at scale, you can now get a CDP for a few $1,000s a month. Probably based on the amount of data that you want to pull into a CDP and how large your business is. But at the end of the day, it's become a pretty affordable tool set to achieve, some pretty substantial goals.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, thank you so much for your time, for telling us how to achieve advanced personalization with the CDP.
Absolutely.
With that is our marketing shot, and we are done. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you, Christy.